Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. For almost a century, Farm Bureau has been a friend of the farm for all Virginians. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Here's what's coming up on this week's program. American farmers are doing their part to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We share tips for raising lots of flowers in a small space. And we visit Henry County for our monthly county agricultural close-up feature.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Itata Farms in Surry County. Farmers in Virginia and across America continue to look for ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, primarily by keeping carbon in the ground, at the soil level. The Environmental Protection Agency recently issued a report on greenhouse gas emissions for all economic sectors. Emissions from agriculture dropped significantly between 2021 and 2022.
Looking at 2022, agriculture was at its lowest emissions rate of greenhouse gases in 10 years. And between 2022 and 2021, agriculture saw a 1.8% decrease in greenhouse gas emissions. So it's a very good sustainability story for the agriculture and forestry sectors and industries.
The main greenhouse gases that contribute to warming the planet are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Many producers, like Steve Pittman in Surry County, are using cover crops to improve their soil. They help build up soil carbon, holding nutrients in place, and prevent erosion. Pittman also takes care of the soil on his land by employing no-till practices.
It's putting all our carbon back into the soil, which makes the soil much more able to withstand a drought. If you tear the land up like we used to, all that moisture that you lost during the spring, if you don't get enough rains, it doesn't replenish. This holds all the moisture, and all you're doing is cutting a slit, putting the seed in, and the roots are going down and better able to penetrate the deeper soil where it's got all the moisture.
Pittman says these and other conservation practices are not just good for the planet, they're also good for business.
We're saving on nutrients, we're saving on diesel fuel, we're saving on having a better yield when we have a drought, using less nitrogen, using less fertilizer. So we take a soil sample on every acre every year, and I take that to my nutrient management writer. He writes the plan, and then I go by that to say, well, this field only needs this amount of fertilizer, instead of going out with just well, if 100 pounds is good, let's give it 200 pounds. We're just putting exactly what we need per acre on every acre.
These practices have also helped the cleanup efforts of the Chesapeake Bay.
You think of things like no-till farming, cover crops, putting in grass buffers, forested buffers, livestock stream fencing. All of these things have an impact on water quality, but a co-benefit of that is that many of these practices also sequester carbon and other greenhouse gases. If, for example, you're minimizing your tillage to try and prevent runoff of sediment, you're also keeping that soil intact, root structure intact, and keeping more carbon in the ground.
And it's not just crop growers who are helping out the environment. Livestock producers are also doing their part.
Better breeding, better feed, nutrition. You have better feed conversion ratios within your livestock, meaning livestock are producing milk, meat, more milk and meat using less feed. So your nutritionness getting better each year.
Overall, U.S. greenhouse gas emissions were up by 1.3%. But these are 2022 figures.
When we think about the broad economy at that time, we were still having some recovery from COVID-19 issues, restaurants, some schools still opening up. So that rebound, that 1.3% we've seen in greenhouse gas emissions, is thought to be linked to just the economy returning to its full throttle.
Farmers will continue to do their part in reducing greenhouse gas emissions as new technologies make agriculture more efficient, but also as the agriculture community takes action to preserve the land and the environment that's so critical to their way of life. In Surry County, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
Farmers are doing more with less thanks to innovation and technology. Economists estimate American farmers would have needed an additional 100 million acres of land 30 years ago to match current production levels. Smart farm equipment and precision ag tools use satellite technology to more accurately deliver crop protectants and fertilizers. Biotechnology is helping breed more disease-resistant crops and produce, which are often more drought-tolerant as well. As farm efficiency goes up, greenhouse gas emissions have been declining. While livestock emissions get a lot of attention, they make up only 4.3% of overall emissions in the U.S.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about container gardening from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
Farming is a rewarding way of life, but it can also be full of challenges. If you or someone you know is struggling, call or text the AgriStress helpline at 833-897-2473. It offers 24/7 access to professionals who can support someone in need and help find mental health services in your community. Please make the call, because healthy farms depend on healthy farm families. That's 833-897-2474.
Summertime may be peak season for produce, but it's also a great time to raise flowers. Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension visits one of his favorite farmers to find out how he relaxes after a long day on the farm, from the ground up.
Well, hello and welcome. Today we're in Flint Hill, Virginia. We're here with Mr. Jim Hankins. Jim is the Executive Director of the Fauquier Education Farm. And Jim, we've loved to come and see you a lot and talk about vegetables, but we're in a different location now. Tell us about it.
You know, Chris, we've been talking at the Education Farm for 10 years now. We have covered every subject, and some of them 2 or 3 times. And I realized recently that there was one type of gardening that we hadn't really talked about that's really near and dear to my heart, and that's container gardening. So I invited you guys to my deck. You know, because you've seen the Education Farm where I'm raising 10 acres of vegetables, and it's about a lot of pressure and a lot of hard physical work. When I get home, I cannot have that. I want my deck to be the happiest place to sit on earth, and part of that means that I'm going to fill it up with plants, and that it has to be really, really easy. So container gardens are the way to go.
And I know one of the things we talked about earlier, and I can see it here, is that you've got different size containers. They're all different sizes. Let's go look at some of these, and I want to talk a little bit more about what you've got and maybe what some growers could, or what some gardeners could use on their patio or deck.
Absolutely.
Well, Jim, this is a sunny location on your deck. Really nice. I know you've got some shade too, but you know, these pots are really amazing. I know over here, this is coleus, right?
Yep.
You've got a nice decorative looking plastic pot.
One of the most important things about a container garden is get the largest pot you can. A larger pot will not dry out as quickly. So, you know, that's about a 15-gallon plastic pot. I've got a lot of grow bags out here. But a larger volume will hold moisture better. Okay. You're not going to have to water as frequently. And it can allow you to do crazy things like grow banana plants.
I know, look at this. And this is great. This is a large pot. It was almost 2 feet apart across there?
This is a 25-gallon nursery pot. Okay. I bought some wholesale. I had to buy 10 of them to get the price. Okay. I used 2 of them. It's probably a lifetime supply of them. But it was a whole lot cheaper than buying nice pots at a garden center. Sure. And like I said, large pots make a big difference.
I got you. I see some more over there. Let's run around there and see what size pot.
Sure.
Well, Jim, that's another large, really large pot. And you've got one here too. This is what you call a grow bag?
The grow bags, the felt grow bags, they work beautifully, but they will get moss growing on them. Yeah. And they will not last very long. Okay. 4 or 5 years but they, you know, you can get them for a couple bucks. Gotcha. You know, one of the things that I really love about the way I've got the garden set up are my benches. Oh. I created them first in order to protect the deck. But I love the way all of a sudden everything got taller and more dramatic. It's much easier on an old guy like me when I'm changing out soil, doing things like that. You know, everything, and I can sweep with a leaf blower. I'm not knocking over plants with my hose. It's really easy.
That makes sense. Yeah, really nice way you've done this. Just with dimensional lumber, some milk crates and some cinder blocks. Looks really good.
Yep.
I was going to say, what kind of media do you have in here? What is this?
You know, you can get away with buying really inexpensive plants and putting them in really good quality soil and get spectacular results.
Okay.
But you cannot put good plants in poor soil.
Okay.
So I'm buying the best, you know, I like buying large compressed bales of potting soil. Again, the wholesale nurseries will sell you that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I'm not replacing the soil every year. You know, I'll take out the root ball, I'll take out the top 2 or 3 inches, I'll mix some in. And when I'm doing it, I'm not afraid to put in a little small handful of fertilizer before I'm planting the stuff.
Well, that saves you on cost, though, too.
It saves you tremendously on cost. You're not gonna, I don't have to buy, you know, 40 pots full of soil every year.
Gotcha. That's an amazing plant right there.
This is an Abyssinian banana that I overwintered. Last fall, I literally just took a handsaw, cut off the top of it, stuck the whole pot down in my basement, and then brought it back up this spring. It looked awful during the month of May before it started putting out good leaves. And now on this elevated bench, before the end of the summer, it'll be over 10 feet from the deck.
Jim, the plants look so good. Do you have an irrigation system that automatically waters all these?
No, this is about no work. But, you know, invest in a decent wand.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't seem like work when I'm watering out here. And this is really very easy. I love having a thumb control that allows me to release just a little for a small pot, or come up here and let go a gusher when I know I need it. This is an angel's trumpet. You know, every garden should have a big showpiece, and this wasn't really a particularly expensive plant. And again, it's on a bench. This is only about a 5-foot tall plant, but a tall pot on a bench, and all of a sudden I've got this nice 9-foot, beautiful drama for my porch.
I really like it. Overall, this is amazing. I can see why you want to relax here, and I see how it's not a lot of work. You have to water a little bit, watch that.
Yep.
But the costs aren't too high either if you can reuse things over and over.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks again. It's good seeing you today.
I'm happy to have you here.
Well, for more information about gardening in containers, contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Hi, I'm Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Coming up on Heart of the Home, red beet gnocchi. Stay with us.
Every spring and fall, Virginia farmers and other motorists nearly collide on rural roads. Sometimes these collisions can be dangerous or even fatal when a car traveling 55 miles an hour suddenly meets much slower moving farm equipment. The odds of a collision shoot up. Farm equipment operators are required to display a slow-moving vehicle emblem when they're on a public road. When you see that, slow down. Give them plenty of space to do their job. This message brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Safety Advisory Committee.
Fresh Virginia beets are now available in stores and farmers markets. Chef Tammy Brawley shows us how to use beets in a summertime recipe from the Heart of the Home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen, here today to show you guys a delicious recipe to do with those beets that are coming in. We have a red beet gnocchi. Gnocchi is a dumpling, usually typically made with flour and potato, but today it's going to be made with this beautiful red beets. You always want to start out with roasting the beets. We're going to set those to the side. These have some delicious greens on them, to be quite honest. I've sauteed these with a little bit of garlic and salt and pepper and eaten them, so they're really delicious. But for the roasting purposes, we do not need the greens, so we're just going to cut the beets off. Not going to do anything to them right now. We're not going to peel them or anything. We're going to roast them in a 425-degree oven for about 45 minutes. This particular recipe only calls for about 1 medium beet. If you were using smaller beets, you would do something two as opposed to 1. And pull it out of our foil where we've roasted it. and we can work it with our fingers. My fingers are going to get nice and pink. I should have put on gloves, but that's okay. I want to pull that skin off of the beet. You can go ahead and cut off the root end at this point. Try to get as much skin as you can, but if a little bit's on there, it's not going to hurt anything. All right, now this is going to go into the food processor, and normally I would always say to go ahead and put it in the food processor, but not whole, okay? So in this case, we're actually going to go ahead and grate the beet. And this is going to be mixed with ricotta cheese and Parmesan and an egg and some salt and pepper. Now you'll see in the recipe it tells you to actually soak the ricotta overnight. The reason for that is for the moisture content that is going to be in this. You can actually see from looking at the beet, it's going to be quite full of moisture anyway. So I do recommend that you either let the ricotta soak overnight, or at least if you don't do the ricotta, you want this dough to set overnight. We're going to come back to that in a few moments. We want to go into our food processor with the beets. I've never done it with golden beets, but I'd be willing to bet that would make a beautiful presentation as well. This is going to be quite pink, as you'll see. So we've got a cup of Parmesan cheese. We've got 1 egg. We've got a pound of ricotta cheese. Do a little salt and pepper. Now I am going to puree this before I add the flour. And the main reason is because if it does have a very high moisture content, then I'm going to want to add more flour than what the recipe's calling for. There's that color I was telling you about. Recipe calls for about 2/3 cup of flour. You may want a little bit more. This is going to be quite moist, I see, so I'm actually going to go ahead and probably add a cup of flour versus 2/3. I do need this to be somewhat dry for forming purposes before we cook it. All right, that is still somewhat moist. I'm even going to go ahead and add another little bit of flour. And based on my experience, this should be pretty much enough. All right. Now it needs to sit in the refrigerator for overnight, but for television purposes, we are going to show you a done dough in a few moments. So when we make our dough in the food processor, before it goes into the refrigerator overnight, I felt it important to show you guys the differences here. I've got a batch that was ready as of last night. This is what the food processor part looked like. It is a little thick, but not as thick as I really want it to be. By putting it in the refrigerator overnight, it will soak up that evaporation, that moisture, and then what should come out of that is a much thicker. Now you can see even with me digging the spoon in, it is way thicker, and that's the consistency we're looking for, and that's the importance of not skipping that step and letting it go overnight. Once it does set overnight, then you can move your gnocchi to a pastry bag. Just learned this trick recently, and I love this. This is great. I have a pot of boiling water here. Yes, there is a string, and no, it's not a tightrope walker string. You want this to be somewhat of a taut string to come across the water. You want your water to be salted, which it was, and it's boiling. And now I'm going to take this pastry bag. It takes a little bit to get a hang of it, but it's really great. We're going to squeeze out just enough for a dumpling. We're going to cut it on that string. Once you get the hang of it, it actually works quite well. Now, a traditional gnocchi is usually done, you roll the dough in flour, and you can roll it on the back of a fork to give it grooves. There are such things as gnocchi boards out there if you wish to invest in that. We're just going to cook a few just to put into a serving bowl. And these are pretty much done after they float to the top. I think that's all we really need to do right now. Now, while they are cooking, I did want to go back over another part of the recipe, and that is a sage brown butter. We turned butter on low earlier in the day and let it sort of caramelize to a certain extent. You want that on low. Do not turn it on high. After it's been on low for a couple of hours, it does do this nice brown color, and then you're going to add that fresh sage as well. That's going to come and make that somewhat crispy, and then we're going to top it when we serve the red beet gnocchi with that beautiful sage butter. So these are floating to the top. It's an interesting color, and I'm not so sure you can get your kids to eat it, but I certainly love it myself. I'm going to go ahead and dump these directly into that sage butter. Oh, I tasted this morning, and it is to die for. So there you see the sage brown butter. You see the red beet gnocchi. Toss that up in there. You want to kind of be gentle with it because they will fall apart. Put the gnocchi in the bottom of the bowl. Encourage your diners to taste that crispy sage. There's nothing like it. Maybe drizzle just a tad butter over top of that. Here we go. And if I wanted to garnish it with a little bit more Parmesan cheese. Beautiful dish. And there you have it, red beet gnocchi. Please follow the steps. They are important. I'm Tammy Brawley with The Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
While beets are popular in the fall and winter, they have one of the longest growing seasons of all Virginia vegetables. Fresh beets are available from May to November. In 2022, beets were raised on 101 Virginia acres on 210 farms. Most Virginia beets are sold fresh, but some are sold to be processed. Beets are a popular home garden vegetable as well. Beet seeds can be sown directly into the soil from March to early June, but earlier is better considering Virginia's hot summers. Some growers also wait until late summer to plant beets as they are a good fall crop.
Southside Virginia has gone through a lot of changes over the last few decades. In this week's County Agricultural Close-Up, Elijah Griles reports Henry County farmers are adapting and thriving in a declining tobacco economy.
Sitting at the crossroads between Southside and Southwest Virginia, Henry County is famous for more than just auto racing, textiles, and this big chair. While Martinsville Speedway thrills hundreds of thousands of visitors each year, engines also roar as farm equipment makes left turns through fields of hay and tobacco. Cattle and tilapia thrive across the county, and fine furniture is still an important industry. Tradition meets innovation here, on and off the track.
In the foothills of the Blue Ridge on the southwest side of the county, Daryl Holland and his wife Lillian raise registered Angus cattle, hay, and timber.
We've always had cattle, we've always had a horse or two somewhere, and we've always had coon hounds. You'll probably hear one barking here somewhere. I like improving the stock. Like I say, there are a lot of beef cattle farmers around here. A lot of them use the bulls that I raised, and I'm really appreciative to that.
Where hillsides are steep and the soil is not suited for grazing or hay production, timber from loblolly pines is a common investment for Henry County producers.
The reason people plant these pines, these fast-growing loblollies we have now, they'll be ready to harvest in another 20 years. So if you're like 30, you can harvest them at 30, plant them again, harvest them at 50.
In the county's northwest corner, forestry fostered the growth of nationally acclaimed Bassett furniture. Virginia Hamlet serves on their board. She and her husband Butch found a new agricultural passion that helps connect the Bassett community.
Even though we're down here in an area that doesn't have as many wineries, we're not known as a wine region, but we're always proud when we can come home. This year we came home with 3 gold medals from the Governor's Cup. We are open to the public 1 day a week, and in an effort to support our private party business, and we created a catering company and Gourmet to Go wine bar in Martinsville, Virginia, that has been a good complement to this business, and it gives us another outlet for selling our wine.
Winning medals for wine isn't the only competitive focus for the Hamlets. Butch Hamlet is a former race car driver at Martinsville Speedway. Located in southern Henry County, it is home to 2 NASCAR Cup Series races.
Several years I was in contention to win, always running near the front, and had a blast with that. And then at a certain point I said, you know what, I'm busy enough around here. I'll step out of race cars.
According to the latest Census of Agriculture, there are 258 farms in Henry County, covering 44,869 acres. The market value of all agricultural products is $18,662,000. Livestock, poultry, and their products account for the majority of sales, coming in at $15,130,000. Crops bring in $3,532,000. $1,336,000 is from hay and other crops, while tobacco earns $833,000 and vegetables, melons, potatoes, and sweet potatoes delivered $766,000 to growers. Henry County is also home to Blue Ridge Aquaculture, the world's largest producer of tilapia using indoor recirculating aquaculture systems. They produce 4 million pounds of tilapia each year.
This year, only thing I have is some hay and wheat. Last year was the first year in over 100 years we hadn't had any tobacco on the farms. We lost our contracts, they're cutting back a whole lot.
Henry County was a big tobacco county up until about 20 years ago. And then they started the buyouts when that come about. You had a lot of those farmers that moved off into their secondary income type of farming of cattle or hayland.
Although tobacco production has been reduced significantly, there are 140 acres of the crop still being grown in the county. In the Ridgeway community, Sandy Height is bringing beauty to Henry County homes with a new venture.
When we bought this farm, it was in the middle of COVID, and people were just having a really hard time and struggling with mental health and everything. And so we decided that that's when we really wanted to do flowers and become the flower farm that we are, because you could come outside and you could cut you a little bit of happiness and then bring it home with you and have something pretty to look at for a few days or, weeks, however long your bouquet lasted.
On the northern end of the county, Jason Bondurant raises cattle on the high hills of the Piedmont. He and his family also sell beef to local customers and ride stock horses.
We've got a small cow-calf operation. We're running about 60 mama cows. They're a Red Angus South Pole cross. We take most of our steers after they're weaned. Got 2 different buyers that we can sell our steers to, or we can keep steers and grow them out and sell them as retail cuts of beef.
Farmers here lost significant income when tobacco production declined 2 decades ago. But with deep roots and tradition, the farm families of Henry County are innovating to stay one lap ahead. Reporting from Henry County, Virginia, I'm Elijah Griles.
We're so glad you could join us to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we're proud to say that this is real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.